gentlemen, the Uncutt Podcast.
It's the best intro in the business. It's the best fucking intro in the podcast business. I don't care what anybody says.
Bar none, yo.
Want to apologize to everybody who is listening to the podcast, by the way. I know some of y'all are watching this on YouTube, and you know what the beginning was. First 30 seconds was a shot of Daphne, who unfortunately we lost last night. Just a big loss to the wrestling industry and to the world. She was a really good person, and
I think you express it for a lot of people out there, dude. In this era where the fans are kind of taking over wrestling, they're taking it back, dude. Daphne was one of these people that definitely had a cult-like following, dude. I mean, for her contribution to the business, dude. Some people might say it was small, but it touched a lot of people. Yeah,
for sure, man. I mean, just nothing but. I mean, today, if you've been looking at Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, nothing but positive things have been said about her. The impact she had on young wrestlers, veterans alike. She was
tragic, man. It was like, like even when I heard the news, I didn't know all the details. I just kind of found out some of those horrible details here in the last half hour, 45 minutes, actually, to be honest. So it's it's like one of those things, dude. It doesn't make any sense, even if it was natural. And then this just makes it even more. I mean,
the whole situation was crazy. I don't want to get too much into it, just because, respect for her. But just everything that happened last night was rough. But Daphne will be missed, but as they say, the show must go on. And we are here tonight to do exactly what me and Robbie do best. Matt is off doing Matt things. He may be in later. Who knows?
The guy's trying to
do what me and Robbie have been doing for 2 years now. So we're just going to fucking run this shit.
The guy's trying to take over Nick Harrison's spot as the number one
man on TikTok, dude. He's a superstar. But tonight, our guest, another old friend of mine. I know I seem to be pulling a lot of these in the first few weeks. There's more coming. Y'all better be ready. But tonight, an old friend of mine, a dude who has truly come into his own over the last year as a superstar that you see every week on NWA Power on Fight TV. Ladies and gentlemen, rising like a phoenix from the ashes, Jeremiah Plunkett.
Welcome to Chaos! The population is doing me! That's never enough! Devastating! It works and it takes the pain! Meditate! Evaluate! The mistakes that we have made! Trauma is the wretched being that's clothed in intelligent vein! I never claimed to be perfect! Just misunderstood! Your thoughts were always covered! Insecurity caused the blood! It's a terrible feeling! Been a burden to someone else!
Welcome.
The last clip, I remember how much that pile driver from the pop rope hurt. It hurt so bad.
Dude, so big up to our boy TJ Vegas for making the video. Big up to the boys in Lonely Youth for letting us use the music. Jeremiah, how the fucking hell are you, man?
Man, I'm honestly doing better than I've been in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm doing really good. I have no complaints in life right now, and that's very weird for me. Somebody who seemed to, I don't know, man, for years just be in a dark space. I'm doing really good right now.
I mean, dude, freshly married, freshly fucking healthy. Like, I know I said this to you privately, but dude, you're fucking jacked now.
I'm not jacked.
Roll up over here, dude.
It's kind of funny because like I Nick here talks about you a lot, and we did Tank interview last week. So I just happened to the match when I was doing research on Tank. I happened to come across you versus Tank on YouTube. That was the match I watched, and I told Nick when he said, I go, so we got Jeremiah next weekend, and I was, oh, he's kind of a husky guy, and he was like, oh, not no more, not no more.
Yeah, dude, you
no, man, I had to lose weight, dude. What's that?
You cut what, like 40, 50 pounds at this point?
So I started this whole thing in November, and it wasn't even wrestling related. I had been put on high blood pressure medicine and was about to go on cholesterol medicine, and I didn't want to live life like that anymore. We were going to get married, so I had a wife to think about. And if I didn't do anything in wrestling, and I'll get more on that probably in a little bit, I still wanted to be healthy beyond that. I had back pain, neck pain, my knees hurt. So I just started trying to do something. I was 292 pounds on November 1st of last year. We are in September now. I weighed in this morning at 237 pounds.
Jesus, dude.
Nice, man.
So, and actually that tank match was my heaviest. I was 320 pounds at that point.
Yeah, you were pretty burly, man.
I went through some bad times, man. I had a bad shoulder injury, and being without wrestling for 6 months, and for 4 of those months, not really being able to leave the house, it put me in a really dark spot. Luckily, guys like Nick, Nikki and Carrie Awful would come and grab me and just take me to shows, so I didn't go crazy, because I was not being able to leave the house, because, it's my right arm. That's what I drive with. So I can't even really drive. It was bad, dude. And it put me in a bad spot. And I eat my feelings, man. A lot of people do that. And I'm one of them. And I would consume, it was all takeout and usually pizza. And I'd probably eat two whole pizzas a day.
Jeez.
Been there, done that, my man.
Yeah. I remember those days, but
yeah,
let's focus on positive, man. Let's focus on the business, and let's talk about. My first question is always, what was the moment you knew you wanted to be a pro wrestler?
So I always liked it, right? Like I remember when I was really, really young, I liked Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. Had the Hulk Hogan shirt with the slits in the back. Had the Ultimate Warriors. You remember the slippers, and they had like the rubber heads on the end of them?
Yes.
For like little kids.
Yeah.
I had those. Didn't have LJNs, had Hasbros, and I'm always Hasbro over LJN. I know that's a big fight online. I get a lot of heat when I say that, but I'm sorry. Hasbro's moved.
We're more the action figure kind of guy, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look at this. It's not just a giant chunk of rubber.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some life to it.
It's slam.
I got to argue with that, man, because you could beat the hell out of those rubber things, man.
That is true. They did withstand a lot. But so I was a fan of, like, I liked wrestling always. I became a real big fan probably when everybody did. I was about 10 years old, so that would have been 96. Right? Wrestling is white hot. And I wanted to consume all of it. So I would regularly watch. I was more of a WCW guy, funny enough. But I really liked WCW, specifically the undercard. Right? I would watch WCW for the undercard. And then when the main event happened, let's see what Raw's doing, because Steve Austin's doing something wild.
Right.
But I consume it all. So on Saturday mornings, I'd be consuming USWA. And then I discovered this thing called independent wrestling that came on right after USWA on the local channels. And there's NWA Main Event. And then they had, I can't even remember what night this aired. But in like 2000 is WMF Medium Rare, which Monte Carlo is actually putting back on YouTube. And
Nice.
It's tremendous. It's cult fans would love it.
Yeah.
It's not the best technical wrestling in the world, but it's insane. But yeah, so when I discovered independent wrestling, I went to an independent show and I realized that these guys, for the most part, aren't all that big. So it's a big difference when you're looking at Hulk Hogan as opposed to Bill Dundee, who when I saw him in high school, I was taller than. So I'm like, this is doable. My first passion was football, but I was an offensive lineman and undersized. The only scholarship opportunities I got were for private colleges, and we were not a rich family who could afford that. So I decided to get into pro wrestling, and I guess never looked back. But I had no idea how to find a school. Right in 2005, it wasn't, hey, Google a school and you just get a list 8 miles long. So I'd go to independent shows, and as guys would walk by me, say, "Do you train guys to wrestle? Do you train guys to wrestle?" And mostly just got weird looks until Mean Mike Woods stopped one night in Columbia, Tennessee, and goes, "Wait for me after the show."
Nice.
And man, that's where it started, man.
It's like the proverbial keep knocking at the door, and eventually somebody answers, right?
Yeah, and when I dressed to try to stand out too, right? Like I'd wear like a nice shirt, jeans, and a blazer, so they could be like, "Hey, the sharp dressed guy." And the blazer's like 3 sizes too big, because I'm a high school kid. I don't have any money. But at least it would be like this guy stood out, and that maybe they didn't know I was serious because I dressed up for the job or something. I don't know what my thought was, but I definitely stood out in Columbia, Tennessee, where it's overalls and Tweety Bird t-shirts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
having been to enough shows in Columbia, yes.
Yes.
They say if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. But wrestling is a job. What do you hate about your job?
So it's changed over time, right? Because now I will say being away from home. And I say that because now in life, I'm kind of at a happier spot than I've ever been. I used to love the road. The less I would be home, the better. But now I actually miss it. So I miss being home, that is. So that would be my answer now. And I think back then it would have been more, when am I going to get traction? Right, because there's that constant feeling of plugging everything you have into what you're doing and still feeling like you're getting nowhere. Sometimes wrestling's so weird, man, because you can be in it for less than a year, get noticed and be on a national stage, or you can be climbing that mountain of sand, and it takes so much effort to inch anywhere. But there's no way of knowing. You can do all the right things and still climb the mountain of sand, or you can do none of the right things and the right person no one knows how it works, right? There's no right way to do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like what might work for one person won't work for another, and vice versa. And yeah, a lot of
the Alex Zane thing where you wrestle for 10 years and then you do one crazy move and that gift fucking gets you noticed. Now you're a fucking superstar. Or you could be that guy who's a solid hand forever and a fucking day and you're stuck in that rut. Kind of like, I don't want to say how you were, because you did have some opportunities along the way, but now it took you 15 years to, hit NWA and become like that guy now,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you spoke to Alex, man. Alex, when he came back to wrestling, because he didn't wrestle for a long time, and when he came back, he was just doing it here and there for fun. He had a full-time profitable business. He didn't need wrestling. You know what I mean? And he just was really good. And, at first he was just working for his buddies in front of, not many people, but he did it because he liked them and it was fun. And then he got noticed a little bit. And next thing you know, yeah, man, he does that crazy 630 through a table at GCW, and sky's the limit, man. And couldn't happen to a better dude too.
So now that you are in the NWA, you're on Power every week. You were part of the Champion Series. I forgot the name of it. I think it was something like that, though.
Yeah, no, you got it right.
Yeah. You were just on the NWA 73 pay-per-view the other night in the Battle Royal, which was sick as fuck. Proud as shit, dude. I ordered it for Murdoch and Aldis, but I also ordered it because I was like, my dude's gonna be in the Battle Royal. I gotta fucking see this. Do you kind of feel like this is where you were meant to be all along, though? Because if anybody is that classic NWA style, it's you. I mean, let's be honest.
I literally had this conversation with my wife today. So let me go back to go forward. When I said that thing about if I never did anything in wrestling again, it's because when the call came from the NWA, I was a few weeks from hanging the boots up. I started getting in shape again and I was feeling good, but I had a couple opportunities, not promised to me or anything, but like, hey, we might give you a look here, et cetera, et cetera. And they just always fell through. And some of them, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's the fault of the company, but like one of them was COVID restrictions, right? Like they were going to give tryouts and then COVID got real bad. And they're like, hey, we're not doing anybody outside of the normal cast and crew. And I got it, but it's still a kick in the balls, right? Yeah. So I was just like, man, 15 years in, not young, not feeling the greatest sometimes as far as, your back and your body. It might be about time. And then I was down at Crux Wrestling, which is Kerry Awful's training school, just rolling around, like trying to stay in shape because bookings were few and far between, and it's really hard to get in ring shape. So I was rolling around trying to stay in shape, and I get a phone call from a New Jersey area code, and I kayfabed it. I didn't answer it. I don't know anybody in New Jersey, right? So I figured it was somebody calling about my car's extended warranty. Luckily for me, I also got a text from that same number and said, "This is Pat Kenny with the NWA. I would like to talk to you about possibly working with us." So I immediately called back. And I'd been down at NWA once before just to help out in the back. Tried and True Pro Wrestling that I'm associated with does a lot of the backstage stuff as far as like, ring crew and stuff like that. So I went and helped out once. But nothing ever since. But then, I got that call from Pat and I nearly hyperventilated. You know what I mean? Because I was weeks from quitting the business. You know what I mean? I hadn't fallen in love out of it, but I thought it had fallen out of love with me.
Right.
If that makes any sense. So, and to what you said about the NWA, yes, that style is always the style of wrestling I've loved. Crockett wrestling mixed with a little like late 80s, early 90s All Japan. Like that's the wrestling I love. It tells a story. It's hard hitting. And the entire roster at the NWA shares that same mentality, right? Everybody wants that kind of wrestling and wants to bring it back. They're all fans of that kind of wrestling. And on top of the roster, and I'll say this, and this is probably the biggest reason why I say I was meant to be there more so than what the product is, and this is not hyperbole. Everybody in the locker room wants it to succeed. I've never, sitting around the monitor, I've never seen like something go wrong. And then the guys when the people come back, they either got laughed at or talked down to. It was, hey man, are you all right? Here's how we can make this better. Maybe try. They want you to succeed. You know what I mean? There's no politics. And it's amazing. I've never seen that on any level.
Awesome, man. Talking about another opportunity you got, can you tell us a little about your 2011 gut check in TNA?
Yeah, actually, there's a tie-in. The person who was leading that gut check was Pat Kenny.
Awesome. And that was that's when Hogan and Bischoff were over there, Dixie Carter.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It was a house show, so there was no Hogan or Bischoff. I'll let you know that right there.
I saw a house show too. There was no Hogan or Bischoff either.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there was definitely no Hogan or Bischoff. But it was in Gainesville, Georgia, so there was an AJ Styles, and that was really cool.
That's right.
But yeah, no, it was a tryout with like 35 people. And only 10 got chosen for matches. I got chosen for a match there. And that's where I got my into OVW. There was no paperwork, no signing, no anything like that. It was literally just, hey, Al is running OVW. I like you. I think Al would like you. If you go and work for OVW, Impact's got a partnership with them. Maybe they'll see your stuff, and maybe that could lead to something. So I didn't have a Kentucky license at the time, and I went to get one. As soon as it came in, I started at OVW and was there for about, I think, 6 to 8 months, 8 months to a year, something like that, before the partnership with Impact ended.
Thank you.
So in the early days of the return of NWA, one of the big names, I hate to do this because I have a feeling we're both probably going to react poorly to this, but one of the first really big names was Josephus. Yeah, I'm sorry. I love you.
No.
I got to hear this.
He was doing really well as the question mark. Probably the most over gimmick on the fucking show. What are your memories of Joe? Because I know Joe was always a super cool dude to me, and I know you and him were very close. So
Joe, and you know this, Joe was a different cat, right? Like, you didn't always know where you stood with him at first, just because I don't think he opened up, and he definitely wasn't that that fake brother in the locker room, the guy who's all, will have this fake personality. Like, Joe's just Joe. Like, if he's having a bad day, Joe's having a bad day, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't go. It's not that he wouldn't go out of the way. I don't know how to describe it until one day, we were talking, and we were always friendly. I mean, I remember when Dutch was taking over Joe's training to try to, mold him. He needed somebody takes bumps for him, and that was me. So, I took some of Joe's first bumps on some moves.
Oh, God.
I remember one night he short arm clotheslined me really close to the rope, so my neck hit every rope on the way down. And then we go to Waffle House after, and he'd get like 12 eggs.
Yeah,
and just eat pure protein. Joe, man, I think that's what shocked me so much about Joe passing, is that he was the healthiest person out there.
Yeah,
he didn't drink sodas. He might have an energy drink every now and then, but he didn't drink sodas. He ate well. There was no drugs or alcohol ever. But no, he was real genuine. And I remember one day, like, we always just shook hands or whatever. And one day he shook hands, and his big ass pulled me in. He gave me a hug. He said, "I love you, man." And that's never happened. And I go, holy crap, man. Joe, really does like me. I've always wondered, because he had that inflection in his voice too sometimes where, he's kind of monotone.
Yeah. Joe was one of those dudes that you never really knew if he liked you until you knew he liked you.
Yeah, until you absolutely knew. And that moment when he pulled me in and he hugged me, because I remember Buzzed Up was there, and he did the same to Buzz, and Joe walks away, and we go, I've never quite knew where I stood. I knew he liked to talk to me more than some people at these shows, but I never knew where I stood until that moment. And yeah, dude, Joe was always the best. And if you did right for Joe, Joe didn't forget where he came from. When we went to Tony Falk becoming the Duke of Paducah a year or two ago, Joe gave this impassioned speech about Tony. He loved Tony to death. And it was real, it was genuine. You could feel it. And how many people did Tony actually give a break to? And then and we all teased about the Tony's terrible payoffs, and he'll laugh about it to this day. But how many of those people kind of crap on Tony now? And it's stupid. Tony just did what he could. You know what I mean? No one was making money in wrestling that day. Definitely not Tony.
No.
So
not with those houses.
Yeah. Oh no, God, some of them were so bad. But Joe, so basically we came up fighting together, and Joe was so creative. It's been let out now, but it wasn't before. How many of those quirky parts of Power, the commercials especially, were straight out of Joe's head? Joe would watch some VHF that had the Danny Deals thing. And I can't remember the salesman's name, but it's so obscure. It's a salesman out of like Jersey area who would do infomercials at like 2 a.m. And he was famous for like how weird and crazy and cheesy they were. And Joe would have a whole VHS tape of these, and he'd watch them and laugh. And that's the inspiration for Danny Deals.
Yeah.
And of course, Danny Deals, he's into that weird stuff too. And he knew exactly who the guy was. So, when Joe talks to him and they both laugh and they're like, I know exactly what to do. And it just made magic. But he single-handedly revitalized Tony Falk's name with Tony Falk's, what is it?
Waffles and tire irons.
Waffles and tire irons. And he got Tony Falk payday. So he helped Tony Falk, who started him in the business, and revitalized his name.
Wow.
I miss Joe tremendously. And we never got to cross, right? We never got to cross at NWA. We did when I was working backstage, and we hung out that whole time and talked, and I got to watch him produce this stuff. And was so happy for him to produce this stuff. I was watching him doing the question mark, and he's so excited because he got the Bruce Lee jumpsuit. Because he mainly wore the tights, but then he got the Bruce Lee jumpsuit. He's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "That is fantastic." And like I remember him saying, "I hope you get a shot sometime here," and I'm like, "I'd like that too." And it wasn't long before the first tapings I was going to get the shot that Joe passed. So it was bittersweet going there because I was really looking forward to working with him.
Yeah. I really didn't want to do that, but I felt like it was necessary because I felt like
I miss him, but sitting here thinking about him makes me really happy.
Yeah.
That kind of segues, I guess, into my question. That today was just another day, another tragedy for wrestling fans. It's not something that we're going to ever get used to, but we kind of get used to it because it seems like every month, one or two people. Why so many tragedies in wrestling? Why do so many people go so fast, so soon?
I don't know if there is a why, man. Obviously.
Is it the business? I mean, that's the common denominator for a lot of these. Is it the business?
I mean, it can be, yeah. Obviously, there's pain in this business, right? So when it comes to, if you're talking about a death from any kind of abuse of any kind of drug, yeah, that can definitely be the business. It can be one of two things. There is definitely a party lifestyle in the business, and that doesn't mean it's all of the business, but there are definitely some who go out and they overly party. But then it also comes to pain, right? We put our bodies through hell, and opioids are some of the most addicting things in the world. You know what I mean? So easy to get hooked on, and it's legal. It's legal. You know what I mean? It's insane. And they say it's carefully monitored, but it's not, and I'm not trying to get on a political soapbox of, it just makes no sense to me though. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. Pain's a real thing and some people need it, but monitor it. You know what I mean? But if the doctor doesn't give it to them, they're going to find it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and if they can't get the pills, then that's when people go to heroin. And then you go down a whole nother laundry list. But so as far as if you're talking about overdosing or even alcohol, because alcohol deadens pain, right? If you're talking about that, yeah, I can say it's not the business. The business isn't making you take this drug. This business isn't making you drink. But the things you're doing in the business to your body, it's a way to cope with it. Now, if you're talking about mental health, it really just depends, man. Outlook's a lot of it. I've been in some of the darkest times ever thinking about my place in the business. But then, then you can have a chain, you can get a taste and it brings you back out and things are looking good again. Or that taste can go away and then you can be down again. So it's ups and downs like anything in life. Some people just hurt, man. And I don't think I've ever publicly said this, but having been diagnosed with, clinical depression, I was on medication for a long time. And only gave that up because I was tired of the side effects. Depression is very real. And some people just need help with it. And the news of Daphne's death, and I wasn't super close to her. I only met her a couple times. I can say she was always super sweet, always super nice. Anytime I was around her, it was fun, super funny too. Jesus, you never know, man. Like you don't know until you know. Sometimes,
yeah.
Robin Williams, man. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Someone who brought us so much joy was hurting so hard inside.
Yeah.
They say look for the signs and let people know, right? And sometimes you don't see the signs until they're there.
Or sometimes you see the signs, but it's like you don't want to make a problem where there isn't one. So you kind of just that'll work itself out, So probably communication and network, having a good community is the best thing you can do to like have the best odds for something like that.
Yeah, man, you got to keep your circle close, man, and just always check in on each other. But I don't know I don't think there's a way to solve it. And do I necessarily think it's the business? No, I think the business can contribute to it because, as I said earlier, it's not easy and it's not a work hard and you'll get there because there's no promises.
Right.
So, that could let anybody, that could lead anybody who may already be having doubts to be having even more. And it's really easy because I'm guilty of it as well to put so much of your self-worth into it. Your whole identity.
Yeah. Oh man, thank you for sharing that, man. Appreciate that.
Oh, dude, no, absolutely, man, absolutely.
Somebody might hear something there, and like, that what we just said might help somebody somewhere. So, thank you, dude.
Absolutely.
To that end, though, you did say it's good to have a tight community around you, and although I think the fans on social media are as toxic as ever, it does feel like the boys on some level, because of social media, are closer now than ever. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like the locker rooms now are, let's say, healthier than they were when like me and you broke in fucking 15, 16 years ago now?
What, more than when we broke in? Probably absolutely so.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, from when we broke in to 16 years before that, probably even better then.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. I will say, yeah, I think people are closer and can keep in better contact because wrestling has always kind of been a thing of your friends are spread out all across the country and you may not see them for years, but it'll be like no time passes when you show up.
Oh yeah.
And we don't call each other. You know what I mean? Like no one, texting maybe, but no one in wrestling calls each other on a regular. Most of us hate talking on the phone. But now with Twitter, I have some friends that I have their number and I don't text them half the time, but I'll see a funny tweet they do and we'll have like a conversation on Twitter when I could have texted them. So it does make it where people can keep in contact and be closer. Do I think the locker rooms are better? Yeah, I would say so. They're definitely cleaner in the fact of like there's way less drinking and drug use than in the locker rooms than before. Do I think there's less in the business? Maybe. I'm not sure on that. Probably less steroid use. You know what I mean? But,
yeah, I'm feeling a lot less steroid use.
Yeah, a lot less steroid use. But I remember seeing that in the locker room. That was wild.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Just I think at least the appearance is there. Now, saying that, I can't think of the last time I went to a locker room and saw some really heinous stuff. So, and to say that 15 years ago, I couldn't. So I guess I just answered my question, and yes, they are better, or they're better at hiding it. It's one of the two. They're either really good at hiding it, or they have to be better.
I don't think there's nearly as much pissing on people's masks as there used to be.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. No. So the really hardcore ribs, like that now looking back are like really mean.
Criminal almost.
We hazed a lot of people. Didn't realize it.
Yeah.
But we did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. And I mean, and there's all sorts of stuff. And there's stuff that like we think is funny and like still think is funny that couldn't be done in a locker room because the wrong person would be offended. You know, I had a tag team partner, and I'm not going to say his name, that would wrap his gimmick around his wrist and ask you what time it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's a wristwatch. You know who it is.
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? And the best, though, he did it to one guy one night, and the dude took his finger and started tapping on his gimmick and goes, I don't know, the little hand's broken. It was hilarious. You could not do that now. You could not do that now.
Nope.
And probably better for it, because there was probably a woman in the locker room that night, and that was dumb. But we didn't know because we're just like, oh, it's the boy. You know what I mean? Like it was a very frat feel, and I think we thought it had to be that way because like that we're the boys. That's what we are. We're crazy. We can still have a good time and not pull our dongs out. You know what I mean? Like,
kind of just like any
sure though,
like,
because I feel like I have a better time when my dog is out.
fair enough.
It's like kind of like any job, though. I mean, you kind of got to treat it like you would, like even if you go in an office, you can't go slap somebody on the butt or say something offensive. You can't even cuss in some jobs. You'll get written up for sexual harassment just like saying the F. But
you can say fuck.
Well, and that's the thing. This never happened. This never happened at a bigger show. You know what I mean? Like we thought everybody was doing this, but then when you go to a higher level show and you look around, you're like, nobody's doing this. They're telling jokes and they're laughing and everything's cool. Like they're having a great time.
But it's more like,
but they're just not going to that extreme. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're in a locker room when your crowd is like 12 people and it's all just like you and your boys in the locker room.
Whatever.
It definitely has that frat feeling. But then I remember you taking me to shows where like there's 500, 600 people and we're surrounded by guys that have been on TV before. And we're like, oh, we've been fucking up. Shit.
Like I remember going to my first like decent sized show and like, you know, this run somewhat professionally, and I'm showing up in, you know, a brother cut off in shorts, and then like everyone else is in khakis and a nice shirt, and I'm like, I think I may have done this wrong.
This isn't what we're used to at all.
Yeah, you know, and like we came from the South where everyone says the South is behind, and I don't think it's behind. I do think they have their own style that they like. But as far as we were behind in getting out of the brothered out era, as I call it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I'm not saying being brothered out is bad. You know, I show up dressed nice to a show and I leave dressed as comfortable as possible, you know?
All right after gets hot.
Yeah. Oh, and I have totally stopped at the gas station down the street and put on the nice clothes so that I looked like I drove this way the entire time.
All right, man. I got a twofold question for you. Number one,
sure.
Who is the greatest wrestler to ever walk God's green earth? And who are the three people that would accompany him on Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Oh, the greatest wrestler ever. So let me ask this. I know that it sounds like a cop-out. Are you saying the greatest in my opinion?
No, I mean, I guess everyone has two Mount Rushmores, I think, because it's like who were the greatest in the industry, for their legacy, for their contribution, and then who's your favorites. So yeah, but
cool. That's way easier for me. Okay. The greatest, like if you're going by the greatest in industry and all the markers on the industry, you have to go Hulk Hogan. For his era, the highest drawing champion, the most famous person in pro wrestling. Then you probably have to go definitely with Steve Austin because he broke every record Hogan set.
Yeah.
I would say probably The Rock as well. And then I don't know if I want to say Ric Flair or Harley Race. I'm torn on those, and the reason is while Rick is the most well-known world heavyweight champion and drew a ton of sellouts, he's by all considerations the GOAT. But then there's Harley Race, who in my eyes was the last real 100% touring world champion. Because Flair did tour, but then when Jim Crockett exploded, it kind of became controlled by Jim Crockett, whereas Harley toured each individual territory and was responsible for popping those houses.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Jim Crockett houses. He was having to pop houses for Don Owens, for Paul Bosch, for the LaBelles in Los Angeles. Like he's having to pop every territory. And then he's having to go over for Baba and pop that territory. So it's really hard for me to say. I think the mainstream would say Rick, so I'll go with Rick because we're kind of going like what the industry would say. But if Rick's 1, then Harley's 1A. You know what I mean? And if you add into the whole territory system, though, like it'd be hard not to say Harley.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
But as far as my personal favorites, though, none of those. And that's not saying I don't like them. That's not saying I don't like them. But like my personal favorites: Arn Anderson, Beautiful Bobby Eaton,
yes sir,
Jerry the King Lawler, and Jumbo Tsuruta.
Yeah, okay.
Nice.
My 4, 100%. Like I can watch any of those guys, and I would throw Terry Funk in there. I'd put Terry Funk above Lawler, if not for the fact that Lawler was part of the reason I wanted to be in the business, because I grew up watching Memphis wrestling. I saw a video of him throwing a fireball, and I said, I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
More than taking backdrops, more than winning a title, I wanted to learn how to throw a fireball because of Jerry Lawler. So my personal favorite, that's why he gets there over Funk, and that's the only reason, because Terry Funk is somebody that I will watch for 6 straight hours, and every match is different, and I'll be entertained. I'll laugh. I'll get pissed off. I'll cry. He's amazing.
See, it's at this point that if I wasn't such a professional, I would now clip in the video of you throwing the fireball at my head. However, I'm going to leave that with us. And the fire that burns will stay at 25 views where it's been at for 15 years.
I know I've watched it more than that.
I've actually watched it a ton. That's required viewing when people come over to the house, not even going to lie. We had I had JC and his cousin over here for Mania, and we watched it after Mania. I think we watched that entire promo series between you and Mike, nonetheless. The fire that burned, really shaving his head, the railroad spike where Hoodrich fucking blew the spot.
Oh God, yeah, and it led to Mike having a vagina on his forehead.
Yeah, he still has that scar. I saw him a couple months ago.
I know.
It's still up there. Yeah.
Every time I see him, I look at his forehead. I'm like, that's me.
God, that was God. Fucking Hoodrich. I love that motherfucker though.
He still says like he grabbed me and I turned. He said to look at him, and then he ran out because he thought I was going to hit him.
You watched the video. I'm pretty positive you thought about it.
I didn't know it was him. Nobody was supposed to get to me. All of a sudden, Tony said, go stop him for some reason, even though we already had this set up. So I thought a fan grabbed me. So I probably was about to swing.
So, man, you've had huge fucking matches. I mean, the big one that comes to mind is obviously Kojima, who's going to be at fucking All Out Sunday night. It's going to be rad as fuck.
Right?
I know. So it's another two-part question. We're big fans of two-part questions here. If you could work anybody in a one-on-one from the past and from today, who would those two people be? That you haven't worked before, by the way.
Okay. From the past, I'm going to go with Harley.
That makes sense.
I would love to have that match. It would be physical. It would tell a story. It would be believable. I would love to have been able to wrestle Harley Race. From today, gosh, and you said anyone. You're going to like this one, Nick.
All right.
I want to work with JD.
All right.
I want to work with JD Drake.
I want that too. I've wanted that for a very long time.
And here's the reason.
He told me to call you Diet JD Drake. I'm not even going to lie to you. He asked me who I had on next week, and I said it was you. He goes, hey, make sure to call him Diet James Drake while you got him on the show. I was like, all right. That's one of my best friends. He did the pilot episode of this show, actually.
Oh, dude, that's man. So me and him have rarely, if ever, crossed paths. But because of all our similarities, like people think we know each other.
Yeah, I was going to say you're brought up together, like in the same conversations.
It happens a lot.
And like one of the students at the Tried and True Academy moved out to North Carolina, and he started training at the school JD trains at. And he just randomly one night while he's at class texted me a picture of JD. And he goes, JD says hi. And I'm like, well, tell him I said hi. Again, we don't really know each other. We just know of each other. And like our likes are so like, or our styles anyway, are so similar and that everyone thinks we know each other. And we've kind of created this relationship of we know each other. You know what I mean? It's like, it's wild.
And you're very well known for your moonsault. So
yeah, so that's where we differ. And the chops. The chops is also where we differ.
Yeah. I think you'd be fine. I think, just swing that fucking lariat for the fences and he'll love that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, lariat and right hand versus chops and moonsault.
And the drill bit, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know he retired it, like because someone else used it.
I think he's probably going to take it back because the guy he gave it to can't really do it anymore.
Fair.
We're not going to get into it, but I don't think that guy's going to use it anytime soon.
I legitimately so I watch Dark and Elevation all the time, right? Like, so that's my keeping up with the industry. Like okay, so before, when I thought wrestling had fallen out of love with me, I didn't watch wrestling at all. Especially like today's. I had my DVD collection, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had YouTube. I watched all old stuff. I do the podcast with Quentin, so I make myself watch wrestling. And I'm sorry if you can hear my cat in the background. I kick her out of my office because she meows.
I thought it was mine, so I'm
a cat lover myself, so it's all good.
She's wanting to get back in this office so bad, but she's in heat, so she's meowing a lot. So I stopped watching, and then like when I kind of like after that call, I started watching just to get knowledge of what everything's going on, and then when I felt like wrestling loved me a little bit again, I really started watching. So I watch Dark and Dark Elevation every week. I do not have TBS, but I watch the shows how I can. Sometimes it's just in clips. Way behind on WWE product, but I try to keep up on that. And then I've tried to fit in the New Japan or some of the bigger independents or Ring of Honor or Impact. I with everything like commingling, you kind of got to know what everybody's doing too, right? So It kind of forces you to have to watch. But then you see how much talent's out there because you're being forced to watch. I love watching Dark and Dark Elevation. I watch Dark and Dark Elevation a lot because to see JD and to see like the changes he's doing, his stuff, and this is becoming the Put Over JD podcast, and I'm fine with it. The stuff with Wingman is phenomenal.
We are big Wingman fans on this show, so yeah.
And all these people saying he looks like Curtis Hughes, it's Big Bubba, bro.
Big Bubba, yes. As he'll tell
Big
you,
Bubba, 100%.
He hates when you tell him it's anybody else too. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's Big Bubba. It's 100% Big Bubba, and Big Bubba was awesome.
Yep, that's his father. People don't know that. James Traylor.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, I got a pop culture question. I don't think you really know a person until you know the answers to these questions. Best rock metal album of all time, and who's your man? Freddie, Michael Myers, Jason, or Leatherface?
All right, we'll go to the horror first. Freddie. I love quick wit. So like the first Freddie was scary, right?
Yeah.
And then he became scary but cool as well.
Yeah, slapstick almost.
Yeah, and dude, I'm fine when it would get. They finally figured it out, in the fact that they made you not care about the victims, so that you could laugh when they died in a hilarious way.
Right.
Is it Dream Warriors where it's the welcome to television bitch and he slams her head?
The one with Patricia Arquette, that's my favorite one. Yeah.
Yes.
Dream Theater
and
did the
like
soundtrack.
What's that?
Dream Theater did the soundtrack for that. We're the Dream Warriors.
Yeah. And then like even when they did Freddy versus Jason, like the way they killed him was so hilarious.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a cheesy movie. I was like, how can they do that? But they really did it like King Kong versus Godzilla almost, dude, with the horror guys.
Yeah, dude, I loved it. And they keep teasing Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. And I don't care how old Bruce Campbell gets, I still want him to do it. Because Ash versus Evil Dead was one of my favorite shows. All
right, Nick, I like him.
Yeah.
Dude, I would go every year because we had a small theater in Middle Tennessee that would do Evil Dead the musical. And my birthday is the day before Halloween, and I would go every year as a birthday present to myself. and sit front row and get soaked with stage blood and just have the best time. I hated when they closed it. You know what I mean? So, but as far as metal album, God.
Metal or rock?
Just admit it's Creed and let's move on with our lives, man.
My sacrifice.
Yeah, it is not Creed.
Amazing.
I love that song.
It is not Creed, though. I will say I was a fan of them before they started getting kind of weird. Man, this isn't well known either, I guess, besides people who know me. I'm a giant Journey fan. So the CD that got the most play was like out of dual disc Journey's greatest hits.
I love Journey, dude. That's one of my favorite albums of all time, too. Dude, like, yeah, dude, Lights is probably my favorite Journey, or Separate Ways, maybe.
Yeah, Separate Ways is better than Don't Stop Believing, and I will die.
Open Arms is like the best.
What did you say was better than Don't Stop Believing?
Separate Ways is better than Don't Stop Believing, and I will die on that hill.
I agree, dude. Though we've gone and touched our way in our separate ways. Dun, dun, dun,
maybe because I identify with Matt Tremont, though.
Never hurt you. I love that song, dude. I want to go listen to some Journey now.
I want to have to go listen to them back to back, but you make a good argument. And as far as you said, the best ballad, what was it you said it was?
Open Arms.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. Yeah. Yes, without. Yeah,
I like
Journey.
Send into a friend request, yo.
But bring it, man. I love Journey. I'm more of a country fan, in like Southern rock and stuff like that nowadays. I was a big nu metal fan growing up, though. Me and AJ Gray could probably sit there and listen to a lot of Limp Bizkit together, and I wouldn't be upset with it.
When you say country, though, like what era? Like from the 80s and 90s or modern?
Oh no, 80s and 90s. Like there are there's some modern guys. Chris Stapleton is amazing.
Yeah.
Alabama,
you know what I mean?
Alabama, baby.
Love Alabama. George Strait is one of my number ones. I have Troubadour tattooed on my chest. I always romanticized being the traveling wrestler and likened it to being a troubadour. And this is even before they did that Undertaker documentary and he used troubadour. So now everyone thinks I got it from that. But it actually came from being at a bar one night after a show with I'm not going to name names because he was hammered. But he requests troubadours like, this is us. Like, it is us. And like 2 weeks later had a tattoo appointment.
Yeah. Me and Crow went to Florida a couple weeks ago, and that came on the drive back from Florida. And where he goes, "Wait, is this that Jeremiah shit?" And I was like, "Yep."
Crowless is.
And then I played New Kids on the Block for no particular reason.
You did what?
And then I played New Kids on the Block for no particular reason.
Yeah, no particular reason at all.
None whatsoever.
They were great.
They were great. I just saw Vanilla Ice in concert, bro. So you're not gonna hurt me about New Kids on the Block.
Oh,
I just saw Rob Bass. Let's see, who was it? It was Rob Bass, Naughty by Nature, Vanilla Ice, and Tone Loc.
Jesus criminies, dude!
It was after a Cincinnati Reds game.
It was amazing. High, baby.
Dude, it was awesome. And it was great because I'm like, they can't sing some of these songs. And they'll just be quiet when it was terrible, but the whole stadium sang all the terrible stuff. And I'm like, there it is. That's how they get around it. Oh, and Vanilla Ice had people dressed as Ninja Turtles and did ninja rap.
Nice.
That made me happy on the inside.
Oh, shit.
Somewhere Caleb Courageous was pleased.
Brett Eisen as well.
Oh, yeah, it's true. So we are, unfortunately, I kind of don't want this to end in an hour, but we have our thing. So we're closing in. So told you before the show, man, last segment, it's all you. I'm going to let this drop off and then or let us drop off and let you take the full screen, man. Promote whatever you want, say whatever you want, send your message to the world. The stage is yours, my friend.
All right, guys, I am terrible at social media, but I am still going to give you my stuff if you want to follow me. It's mostly just me being what I think is witty and probably isn't. I'm at Plunkitis on all social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/Jeremiah Plunkett. I also have a store on a site called PW Merch. I believe it's plunkett.pwmerch.com. But I guess the biggest way to support me, guys, besides, the t-shirts or following me on social media, come out to any show you see me advertised on. And if you would like to subscribe to the NWA package on Fight TV, as Nick said, that's my home right now, man. That's the team I'm working with, and we're growing, man. And I think we're producing some really good stuff. Just got back from St. Louis with an amazing taping, and Nick can speak to it if he wants, but I watched the pay-per-view, the part I wasn't in, from the back of the building, and there were some electric moments. So if you want to see the replay of that, it's also on Fight TV.
Yes, if you haven't gone and watched NWA 73 and Empower, both shows.
Did you get Empower as well?
Yeah, the package comes with Empower and 73.
I cried during Empower.
Empower was
Austin Kong, Gail Kim. I was a mess.
It was beautiful. The whole weekend was great, though, man. It felt like old times, and not a lot of things feel like that anymore. So definitely. But you're always going to be JP to me. So JP, it's been super pleasure. I'm so glad when you said you would do this, because man, it's been crazy watching how much you've grown over the past few years, man. From being my roommate and us being goofballs to now you're fucking on TV every week. And let's never speak of us being roommates again, because God, we did a lot of dumb shit, bro.
So much Steel Reserve was consumed.
So much Steel Reserve.
Oh God, dude, that gives me. I got a ghost ulcer that just woke up. Just you saying that.
My wife is in the bedroom right now and legit just said, "Oh God!" as soon as we said Steel Reserve.
Battery.
Yeah,
terrible, beautiful memories of Steel Reserve. But
Jeremiah, thank you. I just wanted to say personally, thank you for coming on the show. It was great talking to you, brother. Thank you.
Dude, I was happy to do it. This was a lot of fun. I'll do it anytime. I don't know if you do repeat guests, but if you ever do, I'll do it anytime.
Oh, dude, definitely, yeah. There's a ton more we can talk about. This was a blast, but I'm gonna let you go, brother. Thank you again for being on, and we will see you down the road.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, brother. Now, normally, people, this is where I talk about next week's guest. However, I didn't do it this time. Robbie did it this time. And Robbie went out and pulled us a solid fucking guest. Well, so, Robbie, revel in your victory, my friend, and tell the people who's on next week's show.
Next week, ladies and gentlemen, live on the Uncut podcast. I know we're recording on the 9th. I don't know if that's the day. It's probably going to come out later that night.
Yeah, it'll be out that night.
Yeah. The manager of champions, ECW, WWF, WCW, the one and only Bill Alfonso will be live. Not live, but he'll be live with us.
Be live with us, and you'll see him on YouTube. Listen to him on Spotify, Anchor Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I think we're on Amazon now. We're a lot of fucking places, people. You can't really miss us if you're looking for us. Just search Uncut Podcast wherever you watch or listen to podcasts, and you're going to find our beautiful faces.
But I got another announcement too, and I'm going to be putting a post up on this while Bill's on the show. I'm going to be putting up a post on our Uncut page. I'm going to be asking people to sign up for a free giveaway because we're going to be giving away 3 of these autographed Bill Alfonso whistles that he has made. So I got 3 of these to give. So I'm going to make a post. We're going to have everybody that wants a free whistle sign up. If we get 10, 15, 20 people during the show, sometime during the show, we'll ask Bill to pick a number between 1 and 30 or whatever, how many people sign up. And we'll ask him to do that 3 times during the show. And those people will receive these autographed whistles from Fonzie himself.
Then that'll be on the Facebook page, which is, of course, Uncut Wrestling Podcast. I'll also make a post on Twitter as well. And that's at Uncut with 2 T's _podcast. You know how to spell it if you're listening to us or watching us. So next week, Fonzie. We got a lot of great guests coming up, guys. We had an awesome guest tonight.
Yeah, seriously.
I appreciate y'all. Hopefully Matt will be back at some point. We don't know. He's a superstar.
Anybody out there, do you want to throw us some questions to ask Fonzie? We'll give you a shout out on the show.
Yeah, definitely. Put some questions in the comments when we post that Fonzie's going to be on. So, you know where to find us. We love you. Robbie Cutthroat. How many clicks is it, brother?
It's 2 clicks, Nick.
2 clicks. See you next week with Bill Alfonso.